Välkomna tillbaka till Aktiedagen i Lund den 26 september. Jag heter Gunnar Vrede och är den som ska ställa lite frågor till detta bolag som ska presentera sig nu. Och det är inga mindre än Alligator Bioscience. And I'm going to switch to English now because I have the CEO Søren Bregenholt here. Welcome.
Thank you, Gunnar.
Yes, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So good morning. It's a pleasure being here presenting Alligator Bioscience, based here in Lund. We're a clinical stage phase 2 biotech company, fully focused on immuno-oncology, with a deep pipeline of best-in-class both monoclonal and bispecific antibodies. Our pipeline is underpinned by a number of interesting technologies that also will drive the future growth of Alligator Bioscience as we invent new and best-in-class molecules. We are listed on Nasdaq in Stockholm under the ticker ATORX, and we are headquartered here in Lund, as I recently said. Let me present the senior management team. A strong team is needed to take innovation all the way from idea to patient benefit. The team here represents more than a century of drug development and drug discovery and business development experience from a number of successful international companies, as you can see from the slide. Alligator has a robust pipeline in immuno-oncology led by our lead asset Mitazalimab, which is currently in phase 2 clinical development in first-line pancreatic cancer, and we'll spend much more of this morning talking about Mitazalimab. Next in line is a third wave of innovative immuno-oncology products called ATO66. We'll also talk more about that. And in addition to that, we have a number of very interesting molecules targeting a second asset, 1017 and 527, which are respectively at the end of phase 1 clinical development and just on the brink of entering phase 1 clinical development. The company has a significant and proven track record in being able to collaborate and generate non-dilutive income from our portfolio. I've listed a number of current collaborations here. Let me just pinpoint a few to illustrate what the company, its management, and diligent and dedicated staffs are able to do. First, we have a collaboration with Aptevo, which is a 50-50 co-development agreement where we are bringing 527 forward into the clinic. And those of you who follow the company will see that we only last week announced that the US Food and Drug Administration have allowed our IND application for this, allowing the two companies to start phase 1 clinical development later in Q4 this year. On the other hand, on the right-hand side of the slide here, you see information on our ongoing discovery collaboration with the Helsinki-based Orion Corporation, a company that is focused on building organically a pipeline of bispecific antibodies in immuno-oncology. This collaboration is important for Alligator. It allows us to use and develop our antibody discovery technologies to help Orion build their portfolio. Alligator receives milestones, upfronts, R&D costs to a total value of up to $500 million over the years to come. So, our lead asset, Mitazalimab, is a antibody binding to a molecule called CD40 on cells of the immune system. These cells of the immune system, called dendritic cells, are key in educating and driving and activating immune responses against tumor cells. Hence, stimulating these cells with Mitazalimab will lead to a safe, tumor-directed, and efficacious immune response against the cancer type. We also target another cell type, which is important to make the cell in the tumor, in the pancreatic tumor, much more susceptible and sensible to the attack by the immune system. So Mitazalimab is very well positioned to make a clinical difference for patients with first-line pancreatic cancer. As you can see on the right-hand side, the very talented staff at Alligator Bioscience have designed and engineered Mitazalimab so it, in the best way, exploit the immunology and the biology of the immune system to bind safely and efficaciously to CD40 to drive these tumor-targeted immune responses with a very good safety profile. And that is very, very important when we look at our competitors in the field. As you can see here, CD40 is a hot target in immune oncology today, with a number of biotech and pharma companies competing neck to neck with phase 2 clinical trials. There are two very important factors with these antibodies. Are they efficacious? On the one hand side, can they eliminate the tumor? And on the other hand side, are they safe so that patients can be dosed at the highest possible levels? And when you look at the comparison here, Mitazalimab, our lead molecule, is both safe and efficacious, whereas most of our competitors have some sort of residual unwanted immune activation that most likely is going to limit their how high they can dose in the clinic. But Mitazalimab has in clinical trials shown that it has the best safety profile to give us the opportunity to treat patients with pancreatic cancer in first line. This is a set of outcome from the big phase 1 clinical trial we did with Mitazalimab. And if you just look at the right-hand side of the slide, this showed that the molecule was well tolerated with a very manageable safety profile, with very low levels of so-called grade 3 cytokine release syndrome, the most common side effect of these antibodies, something that where we are very differentiated from our competitors, and also very, very low levels of other side effects. When we take a broader look at this first phase 1 study that was completed with Mitazalimab, we know that the drug is safe, as I just told you. We know that the drug leads to a clinical response in these patients that has been treated with a number of other drugs and now has seen Mitazalimab as the last resort in these trials. We saw a so-called disease control rate about 38%, which we believe is impressive in this first clinical trial setting, a trial that was reported some time ago. The PK, the half-life of the drug, was as expected, and what we also saw from this trial was that the drug was pharmacologically active, activating both so-called antigen-presenting cells, as I discussed in the beginning, the dendritic cells, leading to an activation, as you can see in the middle panel, of the cytotoxic T cells, the cells that are actually killing the tumor, and also to the third and very important part of the immune system, the macrophages, that are making the tumor more susceptible to immune attack. So basically, the phase 1 trial with Mitazalimab showed that the drug was safe and that it worked as we had designed it to do. That led us to initiate a phase 2 clinical trial in pancreatic cancer. Why did we choose pancreatic cancer? First of all, it's a horrific disease with a significant unmet medical need. The 5-year median survival is less than 10%, meaning that if you get diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, there's less than 10% likelihood that the patient is alive 5 years later. The median survival time is around 6 months. So I guess we can all relate to the fact that here we need new drugs, in addition to the chemotherapy that is the only available drug for these patients. When we look at what these patients are provided or what they are presented with in the clinic, it's basically 2 different chemotherapy reagents. One regime is called FOLFIRINOX, which is the most efficacious, but also the regime with the highest and most severe side effects. And this is only given to the most fit patients when presenting in the clinic. And then there is another regime that is given to the rest of the patient, a regime that is less efficacious. So Alligator's strategy has been to combine our drug with the the most efficacious drug that are out there, FOLFIRINOX, to ensure that we get a chance to treat the patients that are most likely to respond, the patients that get the most efficacious chemotherapy, and thereby leveraging the fact that we have a safe and very efficacious drug. And what you can see from this trial is that this study, which is recruiting at 3 countries in Europe, Spain, Belgium, and France, we initially tested Mitazalimab in two different doses, 400 micrograms per kilogram and 900 micrograms per kilogram, to ensure that we balance the safety with the efficacy of the drug. And that first part of the study allowed us to continue with the 900 microgram per kilogram dose. So we are now in the second part of the study, enrolling patients, and as we have previously updated the market, we expect to read out interim data, futility data from this trial by the end of Q4 this year. So a very, very exciting time for Alligator and a potentially company transforming data point coming out towards the end of the year. And from that point on, we will continue to recruit and finalize the trial. If we just take a look at the data that came out of this first part of OPTIMIZE-1, the phase 2 clinical trial in first-line pancreatic cancer, it showed that the drug was safe, as you can see in the middle part of the table down there, that the drug at 900 microgram came out with a safety profile, also in combination with chemotherapy that corresponded to what we saw in phase 1. So the drug is safe and well tolerable. What we also saw on the upper right-hand side of the slide here is that the drug is also pharmacologically active in combination with chemotherapy, thereby confirming the key hypothesis going into this trial, that we have an efficacious and safe drug that is likely to work in combination with chemotherapy. And as you can see from the upper left-hand part of the slide, that of the initial 6 patients that were treated, 4 of those patients were still on drug at this very early cutoff point in March earlier this year. So these data was, even though that they were generated some time ago, were recently released at a conference in the US approximately 2 weeks ago. So OPTIMIZE-1, safe, well tolerable, and pharmacologically active in first-line pancreatic cancer patients, a disease with a significant unmet medical need. Now, if we look at the commercial outlook for a drug like Mitazalimab, and we use the existing drug price for chemotherapy as an anchor point, if we use the response, a median overall survival, how long time are patients on the drug with FOLFIRINOX of approximately 11 months, we believe that if we can add 2 to 3 months of median overall survival to these patients, then the drug is clinically relevant and also commercially relevant. And depending on the market penetration, we expect that the Mitazalimab will represent a commercial opportunity of between $1.5 and $3 billion at peak sales for Alligator and a potential pharma partner. How does OPTIMIZE-1 look from here? As I said, we are reading out data by the end of the year from having analyzed 23 of the patients in the trial. Basically, if the response rate, the number of patients that actually see a response in the tumor, is between 30 and 50%, we will continue the trial as planned. But if the drug is efficacious and responds to a response rate of around 50% of the patients, which is significantly more than chemotherapy alone, which is approximately 30%, then we see an opportunity to engage regulatory agencies and see if we can accelerate and expand OPTIMIZE-1 to become the basis of an accelerated approval of the drug which will, of course, start to reveal or release the commercial opportunity of the drug somewhat before if we have to go into a pivotal phase 3 trial. So a great outlook for Mitazalimab and Optimize-1. Let me shift gear to the next level of innovation in Alligator, still building on CD40, where we have a significant amount of knowledge and expertise, and linking that with the ability to clone, generate, and develop bispecific antibodies that the company has developed over the years. We present the Neo-X Prime, which is a new concept, a third generation CD40 bispecific antibody that does the exact same thing as I talked about for Mitazalimab, activating the immune system, activating the dendritic cells, but at the same time engaging the immune system even more by binding to parts of dying tumor cells and allowing the immune system to take this material up and educate the T cells in the tumor, recruit new T cells to the tumor, driving an even stronger immune response in the tumor. And let me just show you an example here and a little bit of science. I think we all have to acknowledge this is really what's behind all of this, a lot of hard work in the labs. But if we look at this, I think we can all agree, if we look on the upper right-hand side of the graph here, where we have treated mice that have a tumor, and you can see from the green line there that this new molecule is very, very efficacious in eliminating tumors from these mice. And in this, we have built in a number of safety switches, so we ensure that the drug is safe and efficacious only in the tumor. And I'm looking forward over the next couple of years to update you regularly on 4066 and other molecules that we have generated with this platform, because we believe that this is the next big wave of antibody innovation. Let me just spend the last 1 or 2 minutes on the other part of the portfolio, 41BB. This is a molecule on the other part of the tumor immune system, the T cells, and both molecules here are designed to selectively activate these cells within the tumor. Our first of these antibodies is 1017, and I'll show you a couple of data there. Here we are in the process of wrapping up our phase 1 clinical trial with this molecule, and I'll show you a data just in a second. And on the other hand here, we have a bispecific antibodies 527, which bind to this specific molecule, and then is also tumor-targeted, like we discussed before, by binding to molecules selectively expressed in the tumor. These molecules are very interesting. We see a significant third-party or partner interest from these molecules, and we believe that these molecules will provide transactional opportunities in the near to medium term. 41BB, as I said, 1017 is in late-stage phase clinical development. It's a first-in-human trial running at sites here in Sweden. It's in advanced solid cancer, so all different types of tumors. It's the only molecule these patients receive, so it's single agent. And basically what we see is that 45% of the patients that we are treating with this drug in this single agent setting actually have clinical benefit from the drug. And when you can see from the graph here, you'll see a number of patients that have received the drug for more than 1 year. And I must say, I'm pretty impressed by this. This is not something we see every day in these heavily pre-treated patients. We are in the process of wrapping up this phase 1 trial and look forward to update the market on those clinical data in the near term. So if we just look at Alligator from in a little bit in a summary, a mid-stage clinical biotech company currently in phase 2 clinical development with Mitazalimab, a best-in-class CD40 agonist in pancreatic cancer with a significant unmet medical need. A number of additional long-term growth opportunities. I talk briefly about 4066, our bispecific CD40 antibodies, 1017. What I did not talk about was our underlying differentiated antibody platforms. The company has a proven track record in identifying, negotiating, and operationalizing partner agreements. I gave you a couple of examples there. And we have a number of attractive upcoming news flow over the next, let's say, 3 to 24 months. And with this, I say thank you, and good to see you here, Gunnar.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. You too, Søren. I was wondering with Mitazalimab, that's the way...
Mitazalimab, yeah.
Mitazalimab.
Yeah.
You address pancreatic cancer, which is like the most severe and hardest type of cancer to treat.
Yeah.
Was that the cause of aiming at that particular cancer form, or was it like you had a molecule that happened to fit that cancer form?
I think either or both, and so Mitazalimab and CD40 is from a mechanistic point of view very well suited to pancreatic cancer. As I said, pancreatic cancer is a very dense tumor with relatively few immune cells, but a lot of the so-called stroma, so that sort of connective tissue in the cancer, and it's very dense, so it can't really get the chemotherapy in there. And Mitazalimab works on parts of the immune system that makes the tumor more loose and permeable, and at the same time it activates the dendritic cells in the tumor to activate T cells and recruit T cells. So we believe that it's the best way of activating the immune system in pancreatic cancer. So that's one thing. That's the biology. Then on the other hand, when you look at the patients, there is a significant unmet medical need. And then the third one is when you have a chance to test your drug in first-line patients. So these patients come into the clinic, the ever first drug they see is Mitazalimab. So these patients probably have the best immune status. They're probably the patients that are most likely to respond to an immuno-oncology drug like Mitazalimab in combination with chemotherapy. So when you bring these three things together, then pancreatic cancer is the first choice.
All right. I'm asking because I'm not a biologist, and I think a lot of viewers are not either.
Yeah.
And this molecule, does it have potential to treat other cancer forms as well? I know that Mitazalimab is designed for this one, but as an API, but the molecule.
Yeah, but absolutely, and we are, and we updated the market on that at our last quarterly report. We are in the process of getting ready for a second phase 2 trial in a different tumor type. We have not revealed what tumor type, but I can say so much that it's different from pancreatic cancer. It's more inflamed.
That was the secret white line.
That was the secret white line.
I wonder what it was.
Yeah. So you're absolutely right. The potential of a drug like Mitazalimab is significant. We, of course, as a company with the limited resources we have to start small and then expand as we see data coming into to the company from these trials.
So when are you going to reveal what indication this
before the end of the year?
Before the end of the year?
Before, okay. I mean, we are in the process of, as anybody would be at this point in time, discussing with the FDA. And once those discussions are finalized and we have sort of the conclusions from those discussions, we will reveal to the market what we are planning to do in more detail.
And it's preclinical phase in that one, right?
No, that would be a phase 2 trial as well.
The secret one?
Yeah, that's the same molecule, just another trial. Yeah. Okay. Then the small green one.
What? Yeah. Why do you keep that secret? Since you tell us about the pancreatic cancer indication.
Because we need to have clarity from the regulators on whether they agree with the design that we have done and the outcomes, and so it's just to give ourselves a little bit of silence while we work.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. How is your clinical trial going? Are there? I mean, there has been a pandemic. It has affected every company of this type.
Yeah,
and,
that's a very good question. Yeah. When I joined Alligator in June last year, we were behind. We hadn't actually even started the trial. So we started the trial somewhat late in end of Q3 last year. Now we are actually recruiting ahead of schedule. And we promised the market a year ago that we will come with data by end of Q4, and we're going to do that. So we are just recruiting as we should. So we have not been. We have actually not been affected by that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good for you.
Yeah, good for the patients.
Yes, and. You mentioned the market size.
Yeah.
Again about Mitazalimab.
Mm-hmm.
And it varies from potentially 1.5 billion US dollars to 3. I mean, given that you are going into license agreements and things like that, how much will there be left for you?
In a license agreement with Mitazalimab. I think when you are at the end of phase 2, you see deal sizes when you look at molecules like this between $50 to maybe $200 million upfront. So that's what you get at hand. Significant milestones, and then around maybe 20% royalty. Of the net sale, and
so to count on you, you count 20% of these market size.
Yeah,
roughly,
yeah,
very roughly.
And I think it's of course important to understand that taking Mitazalimab to the full potential. So this was only pancreatic cancer, and you asked the question: are there other indications? And I would say definitely. And then it becomes a question on, is this something Alligator does best on its own, or do we do it best with a partner? And I think everybody, if you look out there at other companies like Genmab and what have you, you will see that getting a pharma partner on board that have the muscle to both expand the clinical trials and actually have a sales force, then 20% of a lot becomes much more than 100% of not so much.
Yes, of course.
So I think that's the arithmetics that we're doing here.
Mm-hmm. We have a viewer question, very basic one. When will you break even?
Yeah, that's a difficult one to say.
Can you name a decade?
Yeah.
Sorry, that was.
Hopefully this one. We are still early in this decade. It of course depends on if we make a deal like the one that we just described. If Mitazalimab is successful, then it can be pretty fast. Otherwise, it's like other biotechs. Then it will take some time.
Do you dare to narrow it down to?
No, I think
that
no. Okay. Being mid phase 2, I think that would be reckless of me. And not very trustworthy. Yeah.
Another viewer question is, what's the biggest challenges going forward?
But having a strong discovery engine, having a very, very strong operational engine and clinical development engine, what the biggest challenge that we are all facing right now is the global financial markets. I think we all have to agree on that. We have to focus our resources. We have to do the right thing every time and not spend a dime more than needed. So that's I see as the biggest challenge. We are exactly where we should be with the organization. We have the right people, we have the right projects, we have the right technologies. We're doing the right thing. So external factors are the biggest hurdle going forward.
So how is the financial situation right now?
In the world?
No, in your company.
No, but we are moving forward. We expect to see good data in Q4, and then we will assess the financing situation based on that in Q1 next year. Right now, we are in good territory, and we are coming out October 20 with our Q3 report. There will be more update there.
But given the timeline, your pipeline, and your cash, you will need to make another rights issue, right?
At least some sort of financing event within the foreseeable future.
All right. Søren, thank you very much.
Gunnar, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Och jag går tillbaka